This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stellas. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is presented by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. What's Working is the show designed to bring you workplace, workforce, and marketplace trends. We try to find the people that can talk about the trends shaping their workplace, their workforce, or their marketplace in the hopes that something that they say will make you a little bit better at whatever it is that you do. Our listener for this show, and we know this now that we're at 200 episodes, is a 45-year-old or older, generally male, in an influencer position in their business. And I try to find people who can speak to that person. And in fact, before we start the recording or before we get together, I let them know who my listener is. This is who you're talking to. And I tell my listeners so that they can try to shape their comments to those of you that fit that profile, or if you don't fit that profile. Happy New Year. If I haven't said it already, Happy New Year. Let's hope that 2022 brings you all kinds of good things that perhaps you hadn't even thought could happen to yourself, to your family, to your business, whatever it may be. One of the names that's popped up recently for me in an extraordinary number, lots of people have said this guy's name in a short amount of time, which made me think he's on to something and I need to reach out to him. The name is Billy Duren. Billy is the president, CEO, and as we'll learn in a moment, the Chief Motivational Officer at Threaded Fasteners. And why is his name popping up? Why is he important to me and to this show? Billy is leading an organization that is an ESOP, ESOP, Employee Stock Owned Program, Employee Stock Option Program. And they're not all that common in our neck of the woods in either the deep south part of Alabama or even in the state of Alabama. Billy Duren and his team back in the day, as actually the previous owners, were some of the first to explore this program for their company as they began an exit strategy. And now this ESOP program at Threaded Fasteners is undoubtedly one of the selling points of the organization as they're recruiting new talent to the company. Now, one of the reasons Billy's name came up is that we did a succession planning seminar. Me and a handful of supporters of the show did a succession planning seminar several months ago now, and that is one of the options. And ESOP is one of the options for those planning to leave their company. And we had a little bit of a discussion on that in the workshop. And Billy will explain more of that as we get him on the air. But the other reason that Billy's name keeps coming up is the extraordinary company culture that he and his team have created. Let me say that correctly. They've not created, they perpetuated it from the original owners. These companies with this extraordinary culture are not facing the Great Resignation. Their people tend to stick around for a while due to the strength of that culture, due to what they create and do for their people. And one of the elements that we'll hear from Billy, that I'll ask him about, I think we'll hear about it, as well as the other companies that I've talked to who have such cultures, is that the culture is something that influences each employee from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed. It's not a workplace culture. It's a lifestyle culture. And there are things that this organization does, that Threaded Fasteners does, to try to influence and serve the employees as well as the customers. But our conversation is going to focus a lot on employees today. Serve the employees in the entirety of their day and the entirety of their life and the entirety of their family as well. And organizations like this aren't easy to create. They're never finished with the culture. The culture is not born and then once it's operational, they can leave it alone. It's always in process. It's always being developed. And in the same vein, it's always being protected from a lackadaisical attitude. In other words, it's a constant vigilance to maintain such a culture. The benefits of the culture are low turnover, extraordinarily high employee engagement, high recruiting abilities. This culture becomes its own recruiting tool in the community who knows that there's something special going on there. So we're going to learn the threaded fastener stories. We're going to meet the president, CEO, and self-titled Chief Motivational Officer that is Billy Duren. We're going to learn about the culture. We're going to learn about how the ESOP supports the culture, as well as get any other insights he can. My hope, again, is that you, the listener, will be able to pick up something that Billy says that you can apply to your own workplace, your own workforce, your own marketplace, whatever it may be. Speaking of good cultures, I have the great benefit of being friends with the people at Sandifer Wealth. Sandifer Wealth Management, when I walk through the door, is a culture of family. It's an extraordinary, embracing culture of great people who are there to serve their employees, there to serve their customers, there to serve the community. Financial services is their focus, and if you want to find a place where their heart is in the right place for service, I want you to reach out to Sandifer Wealth. Find them online, Sandifer Wealth Management. They have a way to interact with them online, and you can certainly give them a call. Their phone number is all over that website. Sandifer Wealth Management. Good people, heart in the right place, doing the right thing for their clients. Give them a call. What's Working is presented by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. When we come back, Billy Duren and I in the studio talking about threaded fasteners.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working, presented by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the University of Alabama. I'm sitting today with Billy Duren. He is the CEO, president of Threaded Fasteners. It's a company that has had extraordinary growth based here in Mobile. They are an ESOP, and we'll talk about what that means. It's a part of their culture, a part of their growth. And a part of our conversation, we'll be asking Billy to explain what that means and how he facilitates it. He also describes himself as the Chief Motivational Officer. Billy, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to today.
Let's start at the top. Tell us about Threaded Fasteners. Give us a little of the history of the company and where you are today.
Well, Frank Martin and Steve Schultes started Threaded Fasteners back in 1979. Two guys that are great bolt salesmen, had a vision for supplying fasteners to the Mobile industrial market. Started down on the Slava Street, down by where Southern Fish and Oyster, right on the Mobile River. Matter of fact, right after they got started, Hurricane Frederick came into the building. It was quite an event for our company. I started there in 1980, so there's 4 or 5 people working for Threaded Fasteners when I started. But Frank and Steve were great at what they did. They served the customer. Their philosophy was very simple. The customer's always the customer, and we're going to work hard to make sure their job is easier because of Threaded Fasteners. So very simple business model. We delivered probably 25 miles from our location. We didn't ship very much stuff LTL out of the city, but we were here to serve the Mobile clientele, and we've grown since then from 6 to 230-something employees now in 11 or 12 locations, and we've been very blessed.
We'll talk about some of the acquisitions that you make. I've got a printed history of the company that goes up through 2021, which is wonderful, a new acquisition in 2021. Why did Frank and Steve begin this? Did they see a hole in the marketplace What was their background that led them to say, hey, I think I see an opportunity here?
Well, I think that they would tell you that they were part of the corporate structure, and it was outgrowing a little bit of their ability to serve and be individuals for their customers. So they wanted to take that. This is how we do business, and they just kind of explored what is the market, what is in the market. Are there holes in the market? Southern Fastener is the big player here in Mobile. Gulf State Screw Products. But Frank and Steve had a heart to serve in the way they did business. They were able to start very small, but they grew into the biggest player in Mobile, and eventually both of those big competitors that were there in the beginning, they don't even exist anymore. So we're almost a third generational company now, and it's a testimony to those guys.
Now, you've said something that as you said it, I thought there it was again. And that is, we've had, I'm guessing, maybe 4 guests of now nearly 200 episodes who have talked about the heart to serve, that say their company is just a shell for serving people. Mm-hmm. And I noticed off your website, as I printed a number of the things out, the importance you place in culture. Let's go ahead and jump right into that. Tell me about the Threaded Fasteners culture and the role you play in it.
Well, first of all, culture is not something that that you just create. You don't just go home and say, okay, we're going to become this culture. Cultures evolve over time. And from Frank and Steve, they never, to put it in a simple Southern phrase, they never were too big for their britches. They always were a blue-collar company. They were blue-collar people. They lived in blue-collar neighborhood. That's just who they were. And so that translated into, we never had fancy offices. We never had anything that would consider, a fancy presentation. All we did was out hustle everybody. That's how we did it. But it came from a place, I believe, it started and originated in their heart to serve. I mean, our mission statement in our company now is we want to create value in and for the people that we serve. So that covers everyone. That covers our employees. That covers our business partners, our employee owners. So the heart to serve is at the root of our culture. And as long as I'm there, and I believe this is going to go on way after I'm gone, because it started before me and it'll last after me. If we continue to have a heart to serve, if our heart is to serve our customers, serve our people, the culture takes care of itself.
During this time of what they're calling the Great Resignation, high turnover, struggling to find employees, my experience is the companies with that heart to serve aren't struggling to the same degree as others. Their people won't leave. Their people are fully bought in. Dollars may matter. They may get a little bit more money across the street, let's say, hypothetically, but they're going to stay because of the culture. Are you seeing the same thing with your workforce today?
It's interesting that you use that phrase, the Great Resignation. We actually had that brought to us. Someone spoke about that to us recently, and we just haven't experienced that. Our turnover is 90% of our turnover is in years 1 to 3. And those are generally younger people coming into the market. They may be, they may be going to school. There's all sorts of, reasons why you have a turnover early on, those years 1 to 3. But one of the things that we're looking at is how do we serve that group better? In other words, how do we introduce them more wholly to the culture early on so that they say, I want to be a part of this. The difficulty with younger people, and I mean, I have 6 daughters. I have a house full of young people grow up right under my roof, is sometimes we're just a little short-sighted. We see what's in front of us, not what's ahead of us. So it's a challenge at times to communicate. There's more for you here, but it's in the long run. If we have someone that's looking for a silver bullet, the short-term solution, entry-level wages and things like that, it's a challenge for certain. But the longer that we can get employees to hang on, to sort of buy into the vision of where we're going and what we're doing and who we are, we have a platform of who we are, then we have the next pillars of what we do. And then the top of that is why we do it. And the why is to create value. The value's not just in dollars. The value's not just in their paycheck, but that's part of it. The value is creating opportunities for people to be successful. It's not just about creating jobs. It's creating opportunity for them to grow and to succeed. When Frank and Steve hired me, I was 18 years old. I was hired to sweep the floor. I mean, I'm the poster child for if I can do it, surely anybody can do it. So we want to continue to create opportunities for our team, for our leaders, and I've seen it happen. Our senior vice presidents, he was similar, started in the warehouse, worked his way through sales. Now he's in one of our senior vice presidents. So we want to create opportunities for people, teaching them how to serve, and part of teaching them how to serve, we learn how to serve. So it's just a continual process of learning and continuing to serve our customers.
Culture is, like you said, culture needs to be stewarded. It needs to be carefully created. It also, my sense is, it needs to be protected. In other words, once you've got something that you realize is valuable, you must continue to reemphasize its value and introduce new ideas, new elements to continue to support the culture. What are you doing to continue to support the culture? You seem like you've got some legacy, you've got some momentum, let's say. You could say, all right, let's put that behind us for a little while and focus on a new marketplace. But that doesn't sound like the way you do it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, to continue it, you have to talk about it. So we talk about it. Every month we have a meeting. It's a character core meeting, and every month we take one character. It's maybe attentiveness, it may be alertness, it may be loyalty, it may be trustworthiness, it may be humility, it may be integrity. We take one word of character, and every one of our business locations has a meeting to talk about that character trait. So we speak about what that looks like in the home, what that looks like in the workplace. But quite frankly, my job is this. I can hire your feet, I can hire your hands, I can hire your head, but at some point, you've got to throw your heart in for free. I can never hire your heart. But when I get your heart, you're there. You're going to be at our company for a long time. And that's just the way we look at it.
So tell me what happened. You had to have a test of culture when COVID set in. And I would imagine you, like everybody else, saw orders come nearly to a standstill. No one knew it was going to happen. Some people have exploded out of it after a brief hiatus. Some people continue to struggle. What was your reaction to that trauma to business in March of 2020?
Well, our reaction was we were like everyone else. We were saddled with uncertainty. And generally, when you're saddled with uncertainty, you begin to do dumb things. You start thinking about how bad it's going to be. And we did for about 5 minutes. We sat down. I sat down with our CFO. We pulled our ignorance and said, okay, we're going to budget out 50% of revenue for the next 3 months. Well, the next month came and we outgrew year over year the month before. Then the next month came and we outgrew that month year over year. So every month we were growing. We were not going in the other direction.
Yeah.
So we kept saying to ourselves, surely this is going to show up somewhere. But I believe what happened in the first 3 or 4 months of the pandemic and the panic, we were labeled essential business like many other industrial companies. So we were not mandated to shut down. As a matter of fact, we didn't just survive; we thrived during the COVID pandemic. But what we did, and this speaks to our culture, what we did on week 1, we said we are going to put this statement out for our employee owners. The last thing you need to worry about is your paycheck. You're going to get paid. If I don't get paid, if our senior leadership doesn't get paid, our employees are going to get paid. So we settled that issue just right off the bat. Then everybody kind of settled in, took a breath, and said, all right, what do we got to do now?
Yeah.
And we made some adjustments, but we just kept going.
You mentioned employee owners. When we come back from break, let's talk about an ESOP and what it does for your people. Let's go through the very bones. Here's what it is, and then talk about its impact on your team. What's Working is presented by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. We'll be right back with more.
Cool thing happened back in '64. That's when Keith Air Conditioning opened their doors.
In my family, Turn to the Experts is more than a tagline. It's a promise. Every Keith technician is an experienced AC professional, and that saves you money. Speaking of money, how about 0% financing for up to 60 months on installations of new Carrier systems? Keith and Carrier, Turn to the Experts.
Mobile's leading name in comfort since 1964.
License number 83731.
I'm Cam Marston. You're listening to What's Working. We're back. What's Working is presented by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, better known as ACRE, at the University of Alabama. I'm sitting today with Billy Duren. He's the president and CEO of Threaded Fasteners. Billy, prior to the break, you were talking a lot about the employee owner was the term you used, and I'm familiar with the term ESOP, and I know you're one of a small handful of companies here in down the southern part of the state that are an ESOP. Tell us what an ESOP is and tell us what it means to your people.
Essentially, an ESOP is an employee-owned company, so employee stock ownership program. When Frank was ready to retire, ready to create his succession plan, he actually went out and hired a firm to come in and look at selling the company. And after a lot of looks and a lot of conversations, he also had a conversation with a friend of his across the bay that was familiar with the ESOP program. And what happened is the owner, which was Frank Martin, the majority owner, he sold the majority shares to the employees. And then 5 years later, the minority owner, Steve Schultes, sold his shares to the company. So essentially the company, the employees buy the company from the owners, and then we have a vested interest in the stock. In other words, have beneficial interest in the shares of the stock, and I'm given those shares. I don't have to purchase them. I'm just giving them through the years of service, through just an allocation of shares every year as the debt is retired to buy the owners back. So the employees have beneficial interest. In other words, I have stock. I can't sell it to you. I just have beneficial interest in the stock. So it's a mechanism. It's a retirement benefit mechanism for employees. And it is a great succession plan for any owner out there who's looking to sell his company back to the employees. You may have a group of employees that have essentially been carrying an owner for a long time, and he doesn't have somebody on his team that has the financial backing to just, stroke a check. But through an ESOP program, an owner can work out equity. He can actually sell a portion of the company. He can sell 10% of his equity as an ESOP program. He can sell 49 and still keep control. So there's a lot of different tools for owners out there who can walk through an employee stock option succession plan. And I would encourage anyone who's in that place of looking to move on to the next stage of their life, even if they want to start phasing out. It's a great program, great benefits to the employees, great benefits to the owner. And when you're able to hand that legacy that everyone's built together down to the next generation, I think it's going to be cool.
Did the employer or the owners, so there's somebody out there listening right now who has his or her business and are thinking about, what am I going to do with it? We know there are a lot of business owners approaching retirement, wondering what their next step may be. Do they get fairly compensated in an ESOP versus selling it outright?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of schools of thought on that, but the fair market value is what they're looking for. And the company, in order to be sold to the employees, there has to be an independent evaluation and to determine the value.
Right.
So the enterprise value is determined independently. And then the owner has to decide, is this a fair market value or not? And I think in Frank's case, that's what he did. He went out into the open market. Then he came back to the fair market value of the independent company that he hired. And so I never knew if there was a huge difference in that. But again, I want to go back to Frank's heart to serve his people. I believe that he was more interested in continuing the legacy that he had built, where some, you may have investors come in, buy a company, break it up, take the top people out. And, so there's a lot of different ways. And again, on the other side, on the buy side, you mentioned some of the acquisitions we've done. We've been able to go into owners and say, we're interested in buying your company. And not only are we interested in buying your company, we want to keep all of your employees. We want to keep the whole thing going just like it's going. We're going to make your number two guy or number two lady that's been with you for years. They're going to be the branch manager now. They have invested, blood, sweat, and tears. Now they're just going to be promoted into the branch manager's position. So it's a huge advantage for us to say, we're going to buy your company. And the people that were there once employees, now they will be owners of the company. They were employees for years. So it's a huge asset in buying companies.
Do you think the culture of the organization would exist today if it were not an ESOP?
Yes, I do. I think the ESOP has enhanced the culture because we won't just talk about ownership metaphorically. We talk about ownership literally.
Yeah.
We just had an example. We were in October. We have two different bonus schedules, pretty regularly schedules that we do during the year. This October, our leadership team decided to give a benefits now bonus. In other words, we've had a good year. This is part of what being owners are all about, is sharing in the success. So we essentially gave our employees another piece of the benefit pie through this bonus, and that's being able to speak. We talk about being owners. Now we're going to prove it.
Yeah.
This is what it is to be an owner. When the company does well, the profits are shared, and that's how it works.
When you bring somebody new in and you explain to them the ESOP, I'm guessing the culture is a big part of it. You have to have competitive pay, particularly today. The ESOP is a big part of it. When does it all click that this place is different? Is it better for you to hire somebody that's had an experience elsewhere so they'll know the difference, or to train them up from zero?
Well, I'm not really sure when it clicks. That's a great question, but I will tell you this. We've had employees at our company, employee owners of our company, and I'm telling just in the past 12 months, we had a young lady up in Chattanooga that worked for us for only a few weeks, and she was killed tragically in an auto accident. And the way that our people responded to her family up at our Chattanooga store, and then the way our corporate support for those people supported her family and even that branch location, to hear some of the stories about, I'm so proud to be part of a company that cares about its people. So when does it click? When I see those stories, I know it's clicked with somebody.
Yeah.
When we've got the number of employees we have, how that filters down all the way through the employee ownership, I think it takes time to do that. But I believe that the best conversation is the water cooler conversation, the conversation that takes out at the workstation where, one younger guy may say, hey, what's all up with this ESOP? And if there's someone out there who knows a little bit about that, I mean, that's when they're starting to throw their heart in, and that's when we're really going to get them. I
love that expression. You have to give away. You have to give me your heart.
Well, I can hire your feet, your hands, your head, but at some point you got to throw your heart in for free.
There's a listener out there right now who's saying, "Gosh, I wish I had developed the culture long ago. I'm behind on this. My turnover numbers are high. The problems that Billy is talking about here are not my problems, and I'd rather have his problems than mine." What is your advice to somebody who wants to initiate this culture that you have? Let's take the ESOP away.
Yeah.
But let's talk about how does someone begin developing this culture?
So if you take the word serve, SERVE, this is my kind of 5-point speech. The SERVE. So let me get them all for you. So see the things other people don't see. You've got to, as an owner and leader, you've got to have your eyes open to what's going around you. Secondly, the E is to engage. You got to engage with your employees. You can't develop culture from the castle. You've got to be part of the team. You got to walk on the floor. You got to listen to what people are saying. You got to bring people into your office and listen to what their needs are. So that be relentless is R. V is to have vision. I mean, we wrote in 2015, we wrote a 15-year vision. So for 2030, we wrote what we want to look like in 2030. The scripture says those who are without a vision will perish. And that is true. We want to have a vision. We want to say to our team, this is where we're going, and this is how we're going to get there. And every decision we make, we lay it across the template of our vision. And that's how it works. And the last E in serve is to educate, be committed to continually educate. And when you begin teaching and talking about that, listen, for years I was a theme guy. I was a no matter what it takes. I was a metaphor. I was one metaphor after the other. But by the time the theme got to the people, I done moved on to the next theme. Well, we've quit that. We have one theme, create value in and for the people we serve. We speak it, we beat it again and again and again. It's redundancy. Keep saying it, but then you got to back it up. You can't talk about serving unless you're going to serve. And when we just this past week, we just had a $1,000 to every one of our locations. You decide where you want to do this money for Christmas. How are you going to help and serve your community? And we put our grant cycle together. It's backing up what we say.
So I can hear an employee at an organization, their boss, their CEO, their manager walks in and says, all right, we're going to change the culture, and it's going to start right now, and I'm going to use this serve thing, and I'm going to use that as my blueprint. My suspicion is there's going to be some skepticism from the ground saying, oh, yeah, boss is just back from another motivational speaker. We'll see how long this one lasts. He comes in and he has these ideas, and they typically fade in a short amount of time. How long does it take for somebody to live these values for them to catch on internally?
I don't really think it takes long. I think that the person who has an authentic heart to serve, it is going to just flow out of them. I would, to your point though, I think that our employee owners, I think all employees are skeptics. They're already skeptic. You just affirm skepticism. You don't have to bring it. They're already skeptic. Yeah. Because we have to look at where, we say this all the time, I hear where you're coming from. Well, but think about where people listen. That's where they come from, is how they listen. So they don't want gimmicks. They don't want themes. They want authentic people. And I believe it starts at the top, and there's no other way around it. If the CEO, if the top leadership team is not bought into this, it'll never work.
Let's come back from break and talk about vision. Okay. We'll talk about your acquisitions, and we'll talk about what the next 15 years may bring. How long did the vision goes out through what year?
2030.
2030. Interesting. All right. Well, we're getting closer than I thought. 2030. Let's hear about that vision when we come back. Billy Duren is the president, CEO, and Chief Motivational Officer. I can feel it. Can you feel it? The motivation for threaded fasteners. What's Working is presented by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business at the University of Alabama. We'll be right back.
At Spring Hill Toyota, it's just that easy. From our 3-day exchange to free car washes, the benefits of the Spring Hill Advantage make the choice easy to see. We make it easy to own. Every vehicle comes with Toyota Care, plus our no-cost maintenance plan with free tire rotations and oil changes for 4 years. Get peace of mind with free roadside assistance 24/7. And don't forget, it's easy to buy your car 100% online. Visit SpringHillToyota.com today. It's just that easy.
Hey, this is Cam. Thanks for listening, and I hope you're really enjoying the podcast. Do me a favor and search for Cam Marston on your social media outlets and like us or follow us or whatever is the right thing to do. Also, if you know others who'd benefit from the podcast, please forward it on to them and encourage them to listen. If you're so inclined, we'd love your rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Those ratings matter. Finally, don't be a stranger. Email me with your comments, your feedback, your thoughts, your show ideas, whatever. Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. I'd love to hear from you. Again, thank you very much for listening. Now, back to the show. We're back. You're listening to What's Working, presented by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the University of Alabama. In the studio today with Billy Duren, the CEO, president of Threaded Fasteners. He's got a vision that goes out through 2030. It has to include more acquisitions. I'm looking at the highlights of our history from the website, beginning around the year 1979. And I'm guessing here, Billy, that there's 5 or 6 acquisitions, if not more. And they seem to be ramping up in the recent past. Talk to me about the Threaded Fasteners vision.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you said it that way. It's not my vision; it's our vision, and that's part of the culture. It's our vision. We wrote this vision together, and then when we go back and look at anything that comes up, opportunities. The first acquisition we had was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was actually thumbing through the mail and the card, and I know people won't believe this, but the card literally fell in my lap. And it was a card that said 50-year-old fastener company for sale. If you're interested, call this number. And of course, you know, we were still in the minority owner was still on the premises. So I called and said, I'm interested in this company. Tell me where it's at. He said, I'm not sure. I can't tell you where it's at until you sign the NDA. I said, well, I'm looking for something up on the East Coast. If it's in that area, I'm interested. He said, it's not on the East Coast. I said, I'm not really interested. Sat there for 5 minutes, then called the guy back and said, I'm going to sign the NDA. I just want to go through the process. It was in Oklahoma. We flew out, met the owner, loved their culture, and we bought the company. That was our first acquisition. And it's been one opportunity after the other. I would love to sit here and tell you that I had this master plan, that I had a big board up there, and I tell you this is how we're going to do it. It's not that way at all. Those opportunities came. We looked at some. We passed on some. We went forward with some that didn't work. But the ones that work were the people that had the similar culture. That's the ones that worked for us. And it's been one thing after the other. I think we had 3 acquisitions this past year. And now we're not talking about a 50-person acquisition, a company that's got 50 people. Some of our acquisitions have been 3 people. Some have been we've just bought the assets of the company because the owner's, you know, looking for a way out. So acquisitions, I want to be a good steward of this. Some of them are 2 or 3 people. Some have been 20 people. But all acquisitions are different.
Yeah. Do you have a plan? You said there's not a roadmap of how this will go. But at this point, you have to have made a number of acquisitions so that you know how this is going to go down, or you know what you need to do to make this successful. What are those steps?
Well, so we want acquisitions in a good location. Obviously, we wouldn't want to. We have acquired companies where we are already located. So when we opened up in Chattanooga, we just opened an organic branch. Well, then an opportunity came up after we had opened up the organic location. A small company wanted to sell, so we bought that company and we were already there. So same thing happened in Tampa. We opened up in Tampa organically. An opportunity came up in Tampa. We bought a company in Tampa. So every situation has been different. We do like the location. We have a place in Chattanooga and we have a place in Tampa now. So we looked on I-75. What's directly in the middle, and that's Tifton, Georgia. So this past year, not only did we have 3 acquisitions, we had territory manager for Tifton, Georgia. So we're going to cultivate that area and probably have an organic opening in Tifton. So every situation is different. Every acquisition is different. The grand plan for acquisitions are follow the opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of things, and no pun intended. Somebody comes into your workplace and tell everybody what it is that you sell. And I'm curious of these, which ones you manufacture.
Well, it's interesting. So I don't know how far we're into this conversation and we haven't talked about nuts and bolts. And generally that is the case whenever I'm talking about threaded fasteners. I very rarely talk about what we do.
Yeah. I
talk more about who we are, because really that's who people buy from. They buy from us because of who we are. You know, it's like Ritz crackers. When you open up Ritz crackers, there's an expectation. Ritz crackers can't sell quality. It's expected.
Yeah.
So our promoting quality is a little bit falls on deaf ears. Quality better be there.
Yeah.
So that's not something that we are just going to push more than we're the company you can depend on. That's what I want. We're going to out you. We may get beat on the price, but you're never going to out hustle us. We're going to be the person that says, yeah, if we don't have a truck, Billy Duren's got a truck down there at the corporate office. His truck will be here to pick these parts up and drive them to Ohio. That's the company we are, and that's the company I want to fight hard to stay.
What is it? Threaded fasteners, nuts and bolts.
Yeah, so we're our company is generally we are a distributor of fasteners, smaller structural fasteners, and then we manufacture anchor bolts, foundation anchor bolts, headed products. Most of our manufactured products go into the electrical utility industry, high voltage utility material, foundations for cell towers, for DOT, where you see the DOT structures that tell you what exit to get off.
Yeah.
Those structures, they're held up by anchor bolts that we manufacture. So we're about 30% manufacturing. Matter of fact, last month we kind of moved that meter to around 35%, and the rest is distribution. So,
was the manufacturing an acquisition, or is that organic?
No, we've been manufacturing from day one. Now I'm talking about manufacturing as cutting studs on a hot saw.
Right.
That's where we started, in an old rigid threader. But now we've got manufacturing plants in Dallas, Mobile, and Tampa. And then we have distribution locations in 11 other locations.
I was going to ask you if the supply chain issue has prevented you from getting the metals you need to create these items.
Well, the supply chain issue has created some need for us of buying additional inventory. So we've probably bulked up inventory on our distribution side. On the manufacturing side, it created a challenge for us over the last 3 or 4 months because the steel mills went to an allocation system. So where we would buy 4 truckloads of 1-inch bar, they would only let us have 1 truckload. So it created a shortfall, not because it was in China. It was because the mill couldn't produce them and couldn't get it out. So.
Why didn't you choose to make this stuff in China? It would seem like it would have been a cheaper opportunity for you when you got into the manufacturing to say, all right, let's go to China. Everybody else is already there. They're pouring tons of steel. Let's just do everything there. Instead, you used, I think you said Dallas is one of those cities that you make these things.
So Dallas, Mobile, and Tampa. So our company started out, when I started with our company, manufacturing represented probably 0.5%. So our intent and part of our vision is to grow manufacturing. So we wanted to keep moving that meter, which is vertically integrating inventory. So products that we were buying, we may have been importing, 25 years ago. How many more of those parts can we make now? So we wanted control. Actually, it was all about control. And as we got control of the product, we opened up our galvanizing plant, which is other vertical integration. We want control of our process, and that's what kept us onshore for manufacturing. We want to control it. Plus, we were employing, probably 70 people in our manufacturing plants. So.
And you needed to care for those people. It was part of the culture.
Absolutely.
So more about the vision. 2030, what's it going to look like if the vision comes to fruition?
So a lot of people write visions and where they're going, and I thought it was a very interesting way to do this. I saw a company out in Oklahoma City. I'd attended a conference, and they had put out a vision similar to what we wrote. Matter of fact, not similar. I copied what they wrote. But they wrote what they're going to look like in 2030. So I adopted the same plan. I said, here's threaded fasteners in 2030. And we just kind of had a dream session. This is what we're going to look like. We're going to have this many branches. We're going to have this kind of testing facility. We're going to have this many, manufacturing plants. So we said, if you drove up to Threaded Fasteners on February the 15th, 2030, this is what you're going to see. And we started listing all those things. Interestingly, one of the biggest things that we wrote in our vision was we would have 250 employees by 2030. Well, we're at 230 now, so our trajectory is already changing. Our revenue trajectory has already changed. So it's you think about writing a vision, and somebody might say, you're just dreaming. Well, no, you're not dreaming. Dreaming is when you're thinking about it and then you don't write it down. When you write down your dream, then it becomes a plan. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened.
That's interesting. How many people did you have involved in creating the vision? Was this a company-wide effort? Was this your top 50 people? Tell me about that.
Well, this is sort of a leadership team effort, and in a small group. So I wrote the draft, and then we sent it out, and then it comes back with additions and pieces, adders, and then interestingly, we have a co-op with the University of South Alabama, another area where we want to serve. There's a part of their marketing and communications department at South Alabama. We co-op with. Once a year, they take our company on as a semester project, and we've engaged with them, and they helped us put the graphics together. So it's a really cool experiment. They helped us put that together. So it was a team effort, no question about that.
So 50 your top leadership together, not daydreaming, creating a vision about 2030. How long ago was that you had
2015.
that? 2015. Yeah. Interesting. And you are on track.
Yeah, we're more than on track in a lot of the areas. And I will say this, I can't think of a single thing in our vision that's been scrapped. There are a lot of things that may have been postponed that may push out a little further. We didn't really know where they would be in the sequence, but nothing's been scrapped, which is really kind of cool, I think.
So we're coming to a close here, Billy. You started as a floor sweeper when you were, I think you said employee number 6 or something like that. Tell me what this means to you. Tell me about yourself. Take a look back and give me a pinch me moment from your point of view of, oh my gosh, pinch me. I couldn't believe that this has happened.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to tell you the truth, I've ever actually had one of those. I've never really, thought of myself as the, our company has really gotten big, and I think if I stopped long enough to think about all the people, I may not be able to sleep at night. But the truth is, I'm just a glorified salesperson. That's what I did. I sold nuts and bolts. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the people that we serve with, and I'm not sure I've ever had one of those pinch me moments. I'm very proud though. We had our 40th anniversary down at the Battle House. And I remember standing up at the podium and looking at not only all the employees, because we brought in most of our teams from our other locations, and their spouses were there, and I was a little overwhelmed with gratefulness of what this looks like now. So if there was a pinch me moment, it might have been just that overwhelming gratefulness that when I stood there and saw that many people there. But knowing this, it's not about me. It's about the team, and it's about the people. If something happened to me tomorrow, Threaded Fastener going to keep going. You'll be interviewing somebody else, because I'm not driving this train. I'm just part of the team.
Folks, I've heard a lot of people say things like that, and this man is genuine. How do people find you if they wanted to find you?
They can call my office and ask for me.
And the website is what?
ThreadedFasteners.com.
ThreadedFasteners.com. Folks, Billy Duren, he's the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer and President of Threaded Fasteners. He also has given himself the title of Chief Motivational Officer. And sitting in his presence and watching him in his eyes as he talks about it, it's bona fide. It's really good. Billy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this with final comments. You're listening to What's Working. This is Cam Marston. The Keith family's provided service to my heating and cooling system since my family and I moved into our home 12 years ago. And today, Keith Air Conditioning offers 0% financing for up to 60 months on new installations, making a new heating or cooling system for your home even easier to come by. Give them a call or find them online and let them come work their magic. Keith and Carrier. Turn to the experts.
Hi, I'm Chef Jewel at Fairhope Chocolate. When I'm not creating the best couverture chocolate creations south of the Mason-Dixon line, I'm listening to What's Working with Cam Marston. Now, back to the show.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working, presented by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the University of Alabama. I asked a number of times during the broadcast if you could hear it in his voice. And my impression after spending a little while with Billy, we visited prior to the interview, we visited for a little while after the interview, is this man lives it and breathes it to his core. The culture, the extraordinarily supportive service that they give. Their job is to serve, and it's serve the customer, serve the employee, and it is not hokey. It is what they truly believe in. And I think that's, in my 200 episodes now, become very clear of the organizations who believe in service, that it's not something that a hat that they put on that when they walk into work. It's a lifestyle. It's an embodiment of a lifestyle. And I enjoy finding these companies. And over again, we see that they're remarkably successful when they can live this life of service through their employees and to the customers. Grateful for Billy's time. That'll wrap us up this week, everybody. Reach out. Let us know what you think. Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. Again, Cam, C-A-M, at cammarston.com. We'll have another show next week. Have a good week, everyone.